Somos medicina, mujeres, medicina, cantando y danzando, despertando en esta vida. Somos medicina, mujeres, medicina, cantando y danzando, despertando en esta vida. Crecemos siendo niñas, sabias abuelitas, mujeres criadoras, poderosas sanadoras. Crecemos siendo niñas, sabias abuelitas, mujeres creadoras, poderosas sanadoras. No corre nuestra sangre entrando en la madre, nutriendo las ricias, floreciendo nuestra arte. Corre nuestra sangre entrando en la madre, nutriendo las ricias, floreciendo nuestro arte. Venidos solteros, portalas de la vida, San Anelina y la historia ya vivida. Benditos solteros, portalas de la vida, San Anelina y la historia ya vivida. Divina Madre Creadora, abre el corazón, enseña el servicio del amor y compasión. Divina Madre Creadora, abre el corazón, enseña el servicio del amor y compasión. Somos medicina, sagrada medicina, cantando y danzando, despertando en esa vida. Somos medicina, sagrada medicina, cantando y danzando, despertando en esta vida.
Good morning and happy Mother's Day. Are you able to hear me in the back? Oh, there you go. Very nice. Thank you. I'm Reverend Karen Brammer, minister of this beloved place and these beloved people. And I'm grateful that you are all here this morning. Apparently, Mother's Day is a day that creates the opportunity for people to do a lot of things other than coming to church, and that's okay. We're the perfect people to be here this morning together. Whether you're visiting for the first time or you've been here thousands of times, you're welcome. No matter who you are, what's bubbling in your system, how you're changing, how you're stuck, no matter who you are welcome here. No matter what faith traditions you may have come from or no faith traditions, you are welcome here to explore and be who you are in safety. This congregation is sitting on the land, the ancestral land of the Haudenosaunee people, in particular the Oneida people and the Mohawk. We say this every Sunday as a way to remind ourselves of not just who we are and where we've come from, but who has been here and where are they and how can we be in relationship with them. So if you're visiting for the first time online or here in person and would like to get connected through the newsletter and are not yet, there's a way to sign up for the newsletter in writing in the back, or you can put it in the chat, or there's a link that you can click on to get a newsletter, and we hope you do that. One of the announcements is that there will be a annual meeting, not the annual meeting where we vote as a congregation, but the pre-annual meeting for conversation about what's coming up at the annual meeting will happen after the service. And that will take place in the large room across the hallway, what some will know as the old religious education room. And there will be continued conversation for those who'd like to talk about it for another 20 minutes, half hour, about the thing that's going to be voted on at General Assembly in June, which is to continue or not the conversation about changing our bylaws and principles. And so if you would like to be part of that conversation, you're most welcome after the service. And finally, the children are welcome, if you'd like, to be part of what we're calling the Pizza Garden Project. So you can do what you're doing right where you are right now as people, as children, as people who are young at heart. You can stay right where you are, or after the together time, we'll invite you to go back and take a look and see what's back there. There's some peat pots, and there's some seeds, all the seeds that you would need to make a pizza, except for crusts. They don't grow on anything that I know of, but there are tomatoes and parsley and cilantro and peppers and all kinds of stuff. If you would like to create a peat pot that is part of, or a bunch of peat pots that will be part of a pizza garden, you'll take it home after planting it here, and then you'll grow it over the summer, and then in the fall, we'll come back and have a pizza making party together. So we do this because our faith is one that really wants to understand how our lives are sustained, what it means to have food, what it means to grow food, what it means to share it. So that's why we're doing a pizza party, a pizza garden planting today. And so, not having asked anyone if they would like to come up and light the chalice, I'll invite anyone who would be interested in coming forward to light the chalice. I think I can do this much. See, I was putting together peat pots beforehand because Matt was not able to do that this morning. Hang on, here we are. Yes, we will. Thanks, Malcolm. Oh, you don't have to like that. Here they are, blowing it out together. 1, 2, yes, thank you. Today we honor the mothers and the mother figures of our lives. Whether or not these mother figures are related by blood, we light our chalice for what we learn through the feminine aspects in our lives and how our spirits move in connection with her. We light our chalice for who we are becoming through the influence of our mothers, mother figures, and mothering energies of the world. And with that, I'll invite you to turn to 109, which is our first hymn, and to tell you that first, Mother's Day was begun in 1872 by Julia Ward Howe, who wanted to create a movement of women who would then advocate for peace. And so Mother's Day is a call rallying women to rise for the good of all. And so also it was part of a labor movement, gathering women to walk the streets to support women in particular, but workers who often lost their lives in unsafe working conditions. And so 109, as we go marching, marching, which is also known as Bread and Roses.
As we come marching
Thank you. Please be seated. At some moment during this service, unless one of you, I wonder if one of you has noticed in my office that there's a wooden carving of Guanyin, who's a Chinese goddess. And if you've seen that, if you wouldn't mind going into my office and bringing it back, it's on top of my file. It's a round wooden sculpture. Oh, I see. That was given to me by friends who adopted a child from Vietnam. Guanyin is known as Quan Am in Vietnam. Guanyin is the Chinese name for the Buddhist, the Bodhisattva goddess of compassion, mercy, and kindness. She's considered to be a mother goddess and patron of men and women who fish the seas. She's the pinnacle of mercy, compassion, kindness, and love. She's highly respected in Asian culture and bears different names in Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, Thailand, and in Vietnam. Great harm disrupts life when the feminine and masculine are out of balance. We gather this day in honor of the feminine that must, in this generation, come into greater balance with the masculine. For the well-being of all Earth, for all of us, we gather this day in honor of life. And as I said to the children and all of you a few minutes ago, that we'll be doing a pizza garden, but before anyone wants to go back, and I do mean anyone, wants to go back and get peat pots, fill them, put seeds in them, I'd like to ask you to share the name of your mother or mother figure and a quality for which you're grateful. I know it's hard sometimes to pare it down to one, but my mother's name was Patricia Carter Brammer. She was fierce, and I'm grateful. And so take a moment to think, and if you say it loud enough so I can hear it, I will say it to the microphone and share it with the people online and those of us who need a little more amplification. Does anyone want to share the name of your mother? Yes, Mary, please. Carol Hackett McGurl was wise. Maria Beckman Beekman Clem was giving. Miranda. Janet Kelp Kofeld. Unconditional love. There was another hand back here there are many. Let's just go around the room. Sarah. Jennifer Melage. Brave. Branwen. Charlotte Francis Drew. Courageous. And I'll stay over here and then we'll move our way over. Go ahead, Ken, and then Glenn. Rena Ruth Cologne. Devout. Glenn. Rosemary Coyne, stubborn. Cone. Go ahead, Roz. Grace Vanderpool, empathic. Moving over, yes, go ahead, Ryan. Sue Miller, compassionate. In the way back, go ahead, Deborah. Henrietta, Florida, Laura, Henrietta Laura, DeAndrea, strong. And right next to you, go ahead, Carmen. You all are like, oh, this is a challenge for my dyslexic brain here. Would you say louder her name? Maddie? Okay, Betty West. Cared and worried about you. in this group? Yes, please. Agnes George Manglavini. And she was extremely tolerant of everyone. Please go ahead, Emily. Lillian Hassler. Beautiful. In every way. And go ahead, Donna. Go ahead. Roberta. Do that to you often. Roberta. Would you say your mother's name again? Anne Kotz Griffin. Thank you. And the name, what she quality is? Spiritual. Thank you. And continuing over here, please, Chris. You could say it right into your own microphone if it's on.
Yep, I think so. Sophie Geisha. Sophia is wisdom, and she definitely had it.
Beautiful. Who else? Anyone else? Steph. Kathy Berkman-Chard. Adventurous. Another hand over here. Go ahead. Go ahead, Malcolm. Sue Ehrlich. Brilliant. Thank you. Please go ahead. Mary Acerta Camilleri. She was kind. Wow. I don't know about you, but I had goosebumps, and I feel the presence of these women and mother figures through what I see in you. You surface many of these things you're saying, naming. Thank you all. And so if you can't wait to go do a pizza garden, please help yourself. And you could, it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but feel free. And we're going to ask you to take them home, take care of them over the summer, and then we'll come back and do more with them. So in the way of a reading, I'll tell you about a sign that's on the mirror in the bathroom of a dear friend of mine whose name is Ruth. That little poster says on it, "How old would you be if you did not know how old you are?" How old would you be if you did not know how old you are? It's such a good question to ask ourselves because it shifts us from an external marker indicating or projecting on us who we are and focuses who we are in so many other ways. So here's an extension of the same idea. If you were not told that you were male or female, who would you be? Here in this brave and sacred space, each of us is free to explore the feminine, the masculine, and the universe of possibilities between and beyond feminine and masculine within ourselves and in our world. And for this, we are grateful. So, Kitchen Table Wisdom is a book written by Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen. Her stories come from her work as a medical doctor, and one in particular really has just lived in me ever since I read it. So she attended an athlete who got cancer and had to have his leg amputated. And as an athlete, you know that is, it had to have been a devastating thing for him to go through because of his self-image as an athlete and all the drive in him, all the work that it took to become a successful athlete. So he was struggling to figure out who he was and what his worth was. And the doctor shared a story she knew with him, and she told him about an ancient practice from the Far East, which is when a beautiful vase of work and skill and probably many years, when it is broken, it is not thrown out. When it is broken, it is bonded again into one vase with whatever pieces that were there. Some might be missing, but in whatever way it was possible to glue or bond it back together again, it was. And then The cracks and the broken places are painted gold so that they weren't hidden, they were highlighted with beauty. These broken and mended places then take on another kind of beauty, and the vase has a different story to tell, or more of a story to tell. At some point, Dr. Remen invites this athlete to enter the room of a younger person who's about to endure an amputation. And because, like the gilded vase, he has begun to reimagine himself to be, he's able to sit with this other person and share the possibility of something new in conversation. I'm so grateful for this story and retell it now because so much has been lost or damaged in our world, so much. Organized religion and culture prescribing dominance over collaboration. Organized religion and culture prescribing violence over cooperation and respect for millennia have destroyed so much, broken so much. No doubt, there are culturally popular ways of thinking about feminine and masculine as separate and very different from one another. And there is, in my understanding, no such barrier, as much as the barriers have been imposed on women and men. But there is, in my understanding, no such real barrier between feminine and masculine. There's a deeply intertwined and complex interplay between what is popularly imagined as feminine and masculine. But I grew up, as you likely did, with fairly rigid examples all around. Now I'm going to tell you a quick story about the pink flowers. Now, Carol Gable beautifully gave me those flowers, and she did not know that I used to be allergic to the color pink. And that was because as I grew into my adolescence, my grandmother noticed and never failed to tell me that I had facial hair and that it was distinctive. I often got called a man. And my grandmother, every chance she got me what do you call it, a little container of hair removal and something pink with a note that said, "Karen, you'll never get a husband if you don't take care of this." And it wasn't until my grandmother turned 100 that I told her that I'm a lesbian, because I didn't know until then. But she had a heart attack the next day. And it's really hard for me to separate those two. I know I'm not that important in the world, but she got a heart attack the next day. And she survived it. And then she began to treat me with less despair and more curiosity. My grandmother, who was born in the year 1800, right? So I am, as I grow into myself, learning how to accept pink as an important part of who I am. Pink in all the ways that my grandmother understood it as feminine. And for that, I'm grateful. So we've all seen fairly rigid examples all around. So if you take a few minutes and think about what your current understanding of the difference between feminine and masculine is, think about the most positive aspects. That's a little more challenging. What are the most positive aspects of feminine and masculine in your understanding? We know that either of these can be overemphasized and, in fact, legally imposed. And we are going to take the chance today in a ritual way by thinking about what is positive about masculine, what is positive about female, and honor them. And so take a moment, think about it, And then when you're ready, let's start with the masculine. What are some of the positive aspects of the masculine? And you don't need to raise your hand, just say it loudly enough so I can hear it and repeat it. Positive aspects. Yes, Mary? Fixers. Protective. Strong. Building things. Supportive. Loving. Providers. Confident. Tall. There's more. Oh, they can reach things. Glenn just did that for me in the kitchen. All men are tall. Yeah. That's written in the Bible somewhere. All men shall be tall, or they shall not be men. So let us switch to thinking about the feminine. What are the positive aspects of what you conceive or think of as feminine? Go ahead, Kate. Nurturing. Mary was going to say the same thing. Go ahead. Able to have babies. Yeah. Empathetic, strong, creative, intelligent, tall. Tall. You see, there really is no boundary between masculine and feminine, right? But good fixers, yeah, we're in a humorous way and in a ritual honorific, is that the right word? A way that honors male and female, bringing them less separately in polarized ways towards one another. Did you have something to say, Ken?
Yeah, having one of the first occurrences in a United Health Center, I was in the delivery room with my daughter giving birth, and not only, I was strong, my wife was strong, but any woman who would deal with that kind of pain, with such joy, it was like, I don't know.
Ken is talking, honoring the pain that women suffer through in birth.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know.
Thank you.
I don't even know how to answer the masculine part of that. I was not the same level.
Right. It's a very different kind of strength. Well, here in this brave space, we are honoring the most positive, life-giving aspects of the dance between the masculine and the feminine. We have so much to grieve, and there is much to be angry about with how culture, religion, those with power have dominated and repressed what had ended up being the more feminine aspects of our culture and our people. We grieve because there is much lost. And we continue to lose through severing. Whenever male and female are severed from one another, we lose. Because then comes an imposition of one over the other. At least since the beginning of the Abrahamic traditions 3,000 years ago, that institutionalized matriarchy and demonized paganism and cultures with multiple deities, the masculine became dominant and brings us to this day in this place where we lift that which is understood as feminine. Women in particular have been lifting this at great cost to themselves for a very long time by practicing earth-based religions, witchcraft, midwifery, and the like. So today, We learn to paint a new story of healing on the broken pot of our culture. We learn to paint with gold what we have seen lost. And we pull back together in creating a new entity of healing, greater justice, and rebalancing. Integrating feminine into the masculine creates a growing story that must include being vulnerable enough to acknowledge the truth of what has happened, what has been hurt and lost. And a story of healing, justice, of bread and roses, of nourishment, of compassion, interdependence, and beauty. There is no feminine without the masculine, no masculine without the feminine. There can be no well-being without rebalancing the feminine and the masculine aspects of our culture. There's only the work of naming what in us has conformed or suffered beneath a too often, too rigid expression of the feminine and the masculine. There's only the work of rebalancing and bringing into relationship that which has been perceived as separate and polarized masculine and feminine. So as you think about your day-to-day life, as you experience yourself this morning, breathing in and breathing out, ask yourself, if you will, the ways you might explore balancing male and female more from where you are now. What might you do to balance that more? What does that mean to you even? How might your life and those you love flourish differently if you invite opportunities for the masculine and feminine to rebalance? Our people who understand themselves as non-binary, transgender, and exploring have created openings and living stories of what that exploration might involve. And now I invite Branwen to come forward and read her poem called Motherhood.
I wrote this a couple of years ago. Motherhood. Celebrate motherhood, the foundation of society. Mothers may give birth, mothers may adopt, mothers may just show up. Mothers are of all genders, trans, non-binary, and much more. I can never be pregnant. I will and have been a mother. Motherhood exists in many forms beyond sex, beyond gender. Thank you.
So I invite you again to think about, where have you witnessed others experiment, be brave and reach out, create other choices for themselves and for others? Where have you seen someone do that? Or where have you done that for yourself? So think about what that might mean to you, or just your reaction to the thought of what I'm inviting you to do. And when you're ready, offer to say it out loud to the group, and I'll repeat as best I can to those online. What do you imagine for yourself, or what might you be trying already to rebalance what you think of what might be masculine or feminine in yourself or in your work? I see confusion. I see wondering. Yes. You've never had the problem. What problem is that? You've always embraced the feminine and masculine and who you are as a person. You've had a great support system and mom in your life to encourage you to be all of who you are, and father as well. Beautiful. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Absolutely. It is absolutely. Whatever stories are real for you. Go ahead, Barb.
Listening, I say ditto. It's actually the way I felt when I was thinking about it. And earlier, when you asked the good characteristics of masculine and the same for feminine, I kept thinking of words. And I said, but males are caregivers and females
Right.
are caregivers. It's sometimes in a different way, but the characteristic is the same. Every word I thought of, I felt was for both.
Barbara was saying that her life has involved both of the aspects of what considered male and or masculine and feminine. And when we were brainstorming the aspects of each, that she kept thinking of the same word for each, that each can be nurturing, each can be strong. Beautiful. Who else? Please, go ahead, Deborah.
I was raised by women who tell me he was strong, capable, and that comes to quiet.
Deborah was raised by women who told her that she's strong, capable, independent, but to be quiet about it. Say more. Because it would be threatening.
And I only think it was men wanted to feel, but it was that's how you engage the man and you protect him.
So this polarization between male and female has been damaging to the relationship between male and females who might have a good conversation. Yeah, you were seen as a tomboy. Got it. Please go ahead, Jerry. Jerry raised 3 children, two girls and 1 boy.
As they grew up, they were not taught anything about this is a boy's job or this is a girl's job. That they're interested in doing whatever it was they were.
Growing up, they were not separated as boy and girl doing separate things, but were encouraged in what they were interested in to become stronger people. Thank you. Mary.
When I was growing up, there was a great delineation between what my 2 older brothers' jobs were and mine and my sister's. And it frustrated the hell out of me. And my father was, that's the way it is. I liked to shovel snow. My brother hated it, but he had to go out and shovel. I didn't like doing the dishes, but he would not mind it. But we could not train, we couldn't train our chores. But this is what boys do, this is what girls do. And my father was very definite about that. My mother was, it was like, it's important.
So Mary grew up with a father who separated out the tasks of male and female and was really attached to that, but it was frustrating to you and your brother. And your mom said, just do it, it's important to him. Please, go ahead. As an only child. You did both girl things and boy things. Needlework and tools in a workshop. Yeah. 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 Yes, go ahead, Sarah. Yeah.
like the societal creation of these roles versus this divine feminine and masculine.
Sarah referred to the divine masculine and feminine inside all of us, and that she's thinking, wrestling, contemplating how she expresses those aspects of herself and how the culture has kind of molded. Thank you. Go ahead, Ken.
Sarah just reminded me of Joseph Campbell.
Joseph Campbell.
So that series was very pathetic, profound.
Say Joseph Campbell, I heard, but not the title.
Power of Myth.
The Power of Myth. Oh, yes. MYTH. The Power of Myth.
There's a DVD series. I don't know if it's probably, advanced into this, but yeah, if you haven't tried it, you should. And then there's a woman, I can't remember her name, unfortunately, wrote a book called The Hero Within.
The Hero Within is another book.
Different architect, and then it helps explain why we have a male-dominated society. We have all the problems today.
So another good book. Good resources. So, it seems to be Malcolm. Did you want to say something? I saw your hand sort of go up, but it went back down. Your own mother and father. They were both what kids? Throwaway kids. I don't think I've ever heard that term before. Makes me very sad. Your parents adopted two boys. Okay. One of them being you? Got it. Malcolm was adopted by parents who also adopted another child from another family. And beautifully, somehow, both Malcolm and Jerry inherited both positive and male and female attributes. A prison guard. Oh, so Malcolm integrated that into when he did his work as a prison guard. He was often asked, how can you be so kind? Thank you. Thank you. When we leave this space and go out into other kinds of situations, we don't find as many people, I don't think, who have experiences that support integrating the male and female. And I am so grateful that so many of us here have had that experience of support, or at least exploring into who we truly are when we are not told we must be a boy or a girl. And it is not the case that that freedom exists in every faith tradition, and it does in ours. And so we're grateful for a tradition that's open and encourages exploration with care and accountability to one another with gratitude and celebration. So I'm going to invite you, thank you all for such beautiful stories. The book of Genesis 18, the story is told that God sent 3 angels to Sarah because Abraham was not able to have she was not able to have children, and Abraham was the ancestor, the root of Abrahamic faith. Abrahamic meaning Christian, Jewish, and Islamic. Massively important figure. So the story says that 3 angels came to Sarah when she was 89 years old to tell her that she would now be able to have a child, and she laughed heartily. She conceived and gave birth to Isaac for Abraham in his old age. So Sarah is considered the ancestress of all the Abrahamic traditions. The hymn that we're about to sing it's the music to Jacob's Ladder, an old, beautiful spiritual. The new words that are in that hymn are a feminist alteration to reimagine the role of the feminine, because Sarah in this hymn is naming things in the world around her in ways that only her husband, Abraham, had the right to do. And here in this hymn is a different imagining. And so please join 212. We are dancing Sarah's Circle, and rise in body or spirit as you're able and ready. I'm going to just invite you to take a moment to center yourselves. Look out the windows, look at your hands, look at the backs of your eyelids, whatever would bring you comfort. And see if you can access the truth that who you are right now, and who you are becoming are truly a gift. A gift to us and a gift to the world. For which we are all grateful. And I was almost tempted to forget the offering because we're running a bit late, but we do need to support the vision of this community. And I'm grateful for whatever ways that you are able to do that through your time, your talent, and your treasure.
Mother, I feel you Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I hear your heartbeat. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ya hey ya, hey ya, ho. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ya hey ya, hey ya, ho. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho. Mother, I hear you in the river's song. Eternal waters flowing on and on. Mother, I hear you in the river's song. Eternal waters flowing on and on. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ya hey ya, hey ya, ho. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ya hey ya, hey ya, ho. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I hear your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I hear your heartbeat.
Chris, you brought such a beautiful aspect to this service. Thank you. Would you join me in saying the extinguishing of the chalice? The word should be in your order of service. Please join now. We For the benediction, I just hope we all go in peace, knowing that we are connected, even when we don't see one another, and that the feeling of being seen and cared for walks with you as you leave today until we come again. And I think there's time for people to go and have a little bit of food, and then we'll go across the hall for those who would like to have a conversation about the pre-annual or the annual meeting that's coming up, and also the discussions that will happen at General Assembly.
Postlude.
And there's a postlude. There's always a need to make sure I'm on the ball here. Oh, yes.
Every day you keep me safe and warm and loved and fed. But today's your special day, it was my turn instead. So I got up at 5 a.m., been working hard since then. Some things I didn't get quite right, next year I'll try again. Just for you I did my best to cut my own hair. Some places came out pretty good, and some are kind of bare. I washed all of your nicest clothes, but the washer wasn't free. So I used the dishwasher. Pretty smart of me. Remember, no one's perfect. Every kid has faults. Remember, it's the thought that counts more than the results. My heart was in the right place, although I did it wrong. It was all to say on Mother's Day, my love for you is strong. I vacuumed very quietly. I didn't use the power. I cleaned your dirty iPad screen. I held it in the shower. I watered all the houseplants with the garden hose. I forgot to turn it off. Sometimes that's how it goes. Your car's shiny inside and out with lots of olive oil. Who knew that oatmeal splatters up so high and far on boil? I tried to make you orange juice, but I spilled it on the floor. I tried to fry you bacon. We don't have a stove no more. Remember, no one's perfect. Every kid has faults. Remember, it's the thought that counts more than the results. My heart was in the right place, although I did it wrong. It was all to say on Mother's Day, my love for you is strong.